What's up, everybody? Omega here. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we're going to talk a little bit about statuses. We're going to go through positive and negative statuses. Some of them are pretty cut and dry. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. There's a few that can be confusing to people, and I've had some questions about them. So hopefully we can go through these together, talk a little bit about them, talk about what the differences are and how some of them work. Talk a little bit about what heroes may have these statuses, positive and negative, also known as buffs or debuffs, depending on which side of the enemy lines you're on. But we'll talk about these, go through them. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them in the comment section below. I do appreciate you checking out the video. Please like and subscribe. I'll be putting out some more content here soon. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to look at positive statuses first. Most of these are pretty cut and dry. Increased attack is just the effect is the attack is increased by 50%. An increased defense buff, the defense is increased by 50%. Increased resistance, the resistance is increased by 40%. Increased accuracy increased by 40%. Increased critical chance by 30%. Increased crit damage by 40%. Speed boost is 15%. Mana breath. Basically, you get a mana gain. It's increased by 4, so it helps you build mana quicker, so your heroes can fire up their specials a lot sooner. Recovery recovers 5% HP per turn. Soul replenish restores 5 mana per turn. Taunt is very important in the game. It's used in a lot of areas on a lot of different heroes. Basically what taunt is, enemies must attack this character. So the character that has taunt on it, there's many in the game like Najar, Marton, Alexander. Heroes with taunt, the enemies must attack that character. Obviously you want to build those heroes as tanky and as health strong as possible, usually with a lot of resistance as well. Next we have Reflect. Reflects 20% of damage dealt to the attacker. Najar has Reflect. Emmett, a bunch of different heroes have Reflect. Comes in handy against certain raid bosses. It'll increase your damage when you're fighting a raid boss. Immunity. Immunity is very important in the game. It's one of the most important statuses in the game. And so basically, once immunity is up, obviously your heroes or the allied heroes cannot be affected by negative statuses. Invincible. HP can't drop below 1. Think about Akuma. Comes to mind. He has Invincible. Color Master. Color Master is one you don't see a whole lot of. There isn't a lot of heroes in the game that actually have this. A lot of the raid bosses, the purple raid boss has Color Master, so that's one of the buffs he'll put on himself, so keep that in mind. This is what it does. Basically what Color Master is, gemstones matched by that hero always have a color advantage. So if it's let's say it's a Marahold, for example, who's a blue hero, he has Color Master. No matter what color tiles he's connecting, they're always going to do a certain amount of damage, and he's always going to have color advantage with those tiles. Soul Link equally shares damage amongst all heroes with active Soul Link status on the team. Few heroes in the game with this. Kerrigan is probably the most well-known. He casts Soul Link to all allies at the start of the wave automatically. And that really comes handy in wars when he's on defense, because basically what it does is opposed to one hero observing all the damage, they will all absorb only a portion of the damage, inevitably doing less damage to the whole team as opposed to a ton of damage to one hero. So Soul Link is pretty cool. It's pretty important in the game as well. Fortify. So Fortify is 30% less damage taken from special abilities. So any hero you have that has Fortify cast on it, when your opposing team or the enemy hits you with their special, that hero is going to take 30% less damage. Protective Shield, also a very important status to have in the game. There are lots of heroes with Protective Shield, and now we have some artifacts that also offer this advantage to your hero if you equip those artifacts with with the Protective Shield buff. A lot of people get this confused with immunity. It is not immunity. It basically gives additional shield points based on HP, basically an HP boost. The shield points cover the current HP, and they must be taken down first. So Protective Shield is a really good buff to have if you've got heroes with that. You definitely want to use those in different areas of the game. Again, a lot different than immunity. They're not the same thing. Some people do get those confused, and I've been asked about them in the past, and those are the biggest difference. Board King is a good one. Board King, you can match gemstones at an additional time if affected by this status at the turn start. So it gives you additional turns with tiles if your heroes have that Board King status on them. Spell Shield. Spell Shield kind of protects you from negative statuses. It's very similar to immunity. Can't be affected by the number of negative statuses equal to the counter. Each blocked status depletes the counter by 1. Vampirism. Vampirism is a relatively new status in the game. The only hero that really comes to mind, I think, that has this is Isabel. There's probably some more out there I'm missing. If you know which ones they are, feel free to let us know in the comments. But basically, Vampirism recovers 35% of damage dealt as HP. Now, the cool thing about Isabel is she'll grant that to the entire team, just not herself. So that can come in handy. Recovers 35% of damage dealt as HP. But now there's a new artifact set. It's a vampire artifact set that does the same thing. So if you have heroes that don't have that special, if you equip that vampire set on them, this essentially will do the same thing. Your hero will recover 35% of damage dealt as HP. All right, so let's look at some of the negative statuses and debuffs. Decrease attack, same thing as increase attack, just opposite really. Your attack is decreased by 50%. Defense, decrease 50%. Decrease resistance, 40%. Decrease accuracy, again, 40% decrease. Crit chances decrease with a decreased critical chances for 30%. Crit damage decreased by 40%. Speed reduction by 15%. Mana choke. The mana gain is decreased by 4. Stun is an awesome debuff to use in the game if you have heroes with stun. They're very important in war and certain aspects of PvP in the arena. A lot of people get some of these freeze and stun debuffs confused, so there are some slight differences in them, and I'll cover those a little bit here. Stun means basically they can't perform any actions for the amount of turns that the stun is on, whether it's 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. They can't perform any actions at all. Freeze, they can't perform any actions or gain mana. However, it is different from stun, whereas they can't gain any mana while they're frozen. All right. Sleep. Inula comes to mind. She's probably the most popular and well-known sleep hero. The biggest difference is with sleep is she can put your enemies to sleep, but anytime they are hit, that debuff goes away. So if you're using Inula, you obviously don't want to use an AoE attacker along with her, because once she hits her sleep, if those heroes are attacked, that debuff is going to go away. Silence is just basically you can't use special abilities. Curse loses 1 positive status each turn. Heal block can't recover HP. That's great against the Moon Rift boss. So you'll need heal block against the Moon Rift boss when you're in that rift. So it's great to have either the purple dragon with you that offers heal block or a heal block hero. Poison loses 5% each turn. And these are what we call dot heroes. They have poison and burn, bleed, those sort of things. Those are great against revivers or revive teams. A couple dot heroes on your team, on your offense, will just burn down the defense of your opposing team really quick. Burn loses 6% HP each turn. Poison loses 5% each turn, and bleed loses 4% each turn. So that's really the biggest difference in these, burn, poison, and bleed, is that the HP loss per status afflicted is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be lower for some of them. Burn is your highest HP loss, where your enemy will lose 6% HP each turn, as opposed to poison, it's only 5%. Bleed is only 4%, and then so on. Color blindness. Color blindness, gemstones matched by this hero always have a color disadvantage. Provoke, a lot of people get provoke and taunt confused. Provoke is basically the hero affected by this status can only attack the enemy that applied it. Allies cannot choose targets during the turns of a hero affected by this status. So basically that's the biggest difference between that and taunt, between the provoke and the taunt. Vulnerability, 30% more damage taken from special abilities. That's a really good debuff to have. It's important in the game. Assassin's Mark. Assassin's Mark can be deadly, especially if you have a hero that puts more than one Assassin's Mark on your opposing enemies, the opposing defense that you're fighting, or the boss that you're fighting. So it explodes on hit and deals damage based on 15% of the target's HP. So if you put Assassin's Mark on a target or a boss that has a lot, like a high HP, it's going to do more damage, and it can really quickly kill a team if they're HP based or HP heavy. Life Leech. Attacker restores 5% max HP whenever he deals damage to a target with this status. So it basically will suck the life out of your enemy and give it to your hero that's doing the damage. Mana Leech, same thing. It restores 5 mana whenever he deals damage to a target with this status. So that your ally hero will gain mana as he hits the enemy hero that has Mana Leech applied to it. Boar Jester can match gemstones 1 time fewer if affected by this status at the turn start. Jasper's a really good hero that has this. He casts it on the first wave as an automatic passive ability. So as soon as he goes, it's right at the beginning of the battle, at wave start, he'll cast Boar Jester on your opposing defense or your enemy, and they can only match gemstones twice as opposed to once. Or excuse me, once as opposed to twice, or twice as opposed to 3 times, whatever it is. Snare. The Reindeer Girls have Snare. They're probably the most common ones that have this. Basically, Snare deals damage based on 30% of the target's missing HP after the counter runs out. A lot of people like Snare. Some people don't like Snare. I think it comes in handy sometimes, but I think it's very niche in the game. It's only certain aspects and certain synergies where that's going to come into play and help you out. Status Block is one that I really like. Yiki comes to mind. With his buff recently, he cast Status Block on opposing defenses and opposing heroes, and that means they cannot be affected by positive statuses. So they cannot gain any buffs during those turns. I think it's probably 3 turns, so they're not able to cast immunity or spell shield, or attack percent up or defense up, whatever it may be. They can't apply any positive statuses to themselves, and they can't receive any from other ally members either. So Status Block is really cool, and it's really important to have. Death. Death deals damage based on 25% of the target's max HP after the counter runs out. There are not a lot of heroes in the game that has this as a debuff. I know there's some bosses that you'll face that have it. The purple boss and the purple riff has death and can probably kill your heroes super quick. So death is it's probably one of the hardest debuffs to deal with. If it's on your heroes, obviously they're probably going to die in 1 turn, and that's going to be into that. All right. So just a brief rundown of some of these statuses and how they work. As always, you can hit me up in the comments. Ask me any questions. Find me in the game or on Discord and ask me questions. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for checking out the video today. Omega. Peace out.